Tesla keys slip from trembling fingers, striking worn linoleum like silver rain. Alexander Reed, worth $2.3 billion, drops to his knees in a downtown café that smells of burnt dreams and forgotten promises. 18 months of silence stretch between him and his 5-year-old son. 18 months of failed specialists, their empty assurances echoing through sterile offices. Then she appears at table 7. The waitress moves through golden afternoon light filtering through rain-streaked windows. Her name tag reads Reese in faded ink, but those hands, those impossibly steady hands guide Lucas with surgical precision. She whispers secrets only broken children understand. Alexander watches his nonverbal boy lean forward like a flower turning toward sun. More, please. The words fall soft as morning snow, melting the ice around Alexander's heart. His son's voice, returned from wherever lost things go. But when Reese lifts her eyes, raw terror bleeds through her gentle mask. Something metallic catches the light from her apron pocket, something that transforms everything he thought he knew about miracles. The memory crashes through Alexander's mind like glass shattering. Madison's laugh echoing through their Portland mansion on that final Tuesday morning. Coffee brewing in their smart kitchen while she packed Lucas's dinosaur backpack for preschool. The last kiss goodbye, tasting like vanilla lip gloss and promises of dinner reservations. Then the phone call at 2:15 p.m. that split his world into before and after. The drunk driver ran the red light on Southeast Hawthorne. Madison died on impact. Lucas survived with a concussion and something deeper, a silence that swallowed his voice whole. 8 child psychologists, 4 speech therapists, 2 residential treatment centers, each appointment costing thousands while his son slipped further into a world where words had no meaning. Alexander's tech company, Neural Dynamics, revolutionized artificial intelligence algorithms, but he couldn't decode the mystery of his own child's silence. Board meetings blurred into therapy sessions. Stock prices mattered less than the price of hope. He sold the mansion, downsized to a downtown penthouse, and spent his days searching for someone who could reach the boy trapped behind Lucas's vacant stare. Every specialist spoke the same language of clinical terms and cautious optimism. Selective mutism, they called it. Trauma response. Time and patience would heal. But 18 months felt like 18 years, and patience was a luxury Alexander couldn't afford while watching his son disappear one silent day at a time. The Moonbeam Café becomes their ritual. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m., the same booth with cracked vinyl and memories soaked into worn wood. Lucas traces patterns on the table with his finger, while Alexander orders grilled cheese cut into triangles and chocolate milk in a clear glass. The other customers barely notice the quiet boy arranging sugar packets into perfect geometric shapes. But today feels different. Today? Reese notices. She approaches their table with coffee pot in hand, but her eyes lock onto Lucas's sugar packet, creation a complex spiral that resembles something Alexander can't quite place. Her movements shift from waitress casual to something else entirely, something precise, something knowing. She sets the coffee down without looking, her gaze fixed on Lucas like a doctor studying X-rays. "That's beautiful," Reese whispers, settling into the booth beside Lucas with fluid grace that speaks of countless hours spent earning a child's trust. Her voice carries the soft authority of someone accustomed to coaxing responses from reluctant patients. Lucas doesn't flinch when she moves the sugar packets, continuing his pattern with her help. Alexander watches, mesmerized, as his son, who hasn't responded to any adult in months, begins arranging the packets into deliberate shapes under Reese's gentle guidance. She points to menu pictures with therapeutic precision, her finger tracing visual pathways that somehow bypass Lucas's verbal barriers. The café fades around them as Alexander witnesses something impossible. His son, engaged, present, almost normal. But normal comes with a price he's not yet prepared to pay. Reese's hands tell stories her voice won't. Calluses on her fingertips suggest hours of delicate work. A pale band of skin on her ring finger where a wedding band once lived. Tiny scars across her knuckles that speak of needles and medical procedures. When she adjusts Lucas's grip on his crayon, her movements carry muscle memory of someone who's guided thousands of small hands through similar motions. Alexander's business instincts, honed by years of due diligence and competitor analysis, catalogue every detail. This woman isn't what she claims to be. The question burning in his chest is simple. What is she hiding? And why does his son trust her when he trusts no one else? The answer glints silver in her apron pocket, catching afternoon light like a secret begging to be exposed. Lucas's breakthrough shatters the afternoon quiet like church bells announcing a miracle. More, please? The words escape his lips with the hesitant wonder of a bird taking flight. Alexander's coffee cup slips from his fingers, ceramic exploding against linoleum in a symphony of shock and joy. 18 months of silence broken by 2 small words that carry the weight of a father's prayers. Reese freezes, her face cycling through emotions too complex for Alexander to decipher. Relief, terror, something deeper recognition mixed with pain so raw it makes Alexander's chest tighten. She recovers quickly, professional mask sliding back into place, but not before Alexander glimpses the truth hiding behind her waitress facade. This isn't coincidence. This moment was crafted by someone who understands the landscape of childhood trauma better than any specialist he's ever hired. Good job, sweetheart. Reese murmurs, her voice thick with unshed tears that don't match her casual demeanor. She reaches across the table to squeeze Lucas's hand, but Alexander catches the tremor in her fingers. The same tremor he's seen in his own hands during board meetings when Neural Dynamics' stock price plummeted after Madison's death. The tremor of someone holding too much weight, carrying secrets too heavy for one person to bear alone. Lucas beams at her praise, his face transforming from the hollow-eyed ghost of the past 18 months into something resembling the boy he used to be. But Alexander's executive mind shifts into investigation mode, cataloging inconsistencies like malware in perfectly coded software. Waitresses don't inspire miraculous breakthroughs. Waitresses don't possess the clinical knowledge required to unlock selective mutism. Unless they're not waitresses at all. The silver object in Reese's pocket catches light again when she stands to refill coffee cups, and this time Alexander sees enough to fuel his suspicions. Rectangular, medical-grade metal, possibly an ID badge or credentials holder that doesn't belong to someone serving pie and pouring coffee for minimum wage plus tips. He excuses himself to the restroom, pulling out his phone to dial the private investigator who handles Neural Dynamics corporate security. Jeremy Lawson answers on the first ring, his voice carrying the clipped efficiency of 20 years in military intelligence. "I need a background check." Alexander whispers, glancing towards the café where his son continues his quiet conversation with the mystery woman who just gave him back his voice. Full workup. Name is Reese, works at Moonbeam Cafe on Northwest 23rd. I need to know who she really is. Jeremy's fingers fly across his keyboard, digital footprints appearing on dual monitors like breadcrumbs leading through an electronic forest. Social security number traces to a Rebecca Susan Caldwell, age 33, last known address in Oregon City. Employment history shows gaps. 3 years ago, she worked at Oregon Health and Science University Hospital. His voice drops to professional concern. Alexander, her medical license was suspended. Malpractice lawsuit. Patient death due to delayed diagnosis. She disappeared from the public record until she started working at that café 6 months ago. Alexander's blood runs cold as pieces of a darker puzzle begin clicking into place. The woman who just broke through his son's silence is hiding a professional failure that cost someone their life. But as he watches Lucas actually laugh for the first time since the accident, Alexander faces an impossible choice between his son's healing and his own protective instincts. The investigator's report arrives by encrypted email an hour later, each revelation hitting Alexander like physical blows. Dr. Rebecca Caldwell, former pediatric speech pathologist specializing in selective mutism and autism spectrum disorders. License revoked following the death of a 4-year-old patient whose early leukemia symptoms she missed during routine speech therapy sessions. The boy's parents sued for wrongful death, claiming Dr. Caldwell's failure to recognize fatigue and behavioral changes as potential medical red flags contributed to their son's late-stage diagnosis. The case settled out of court, but the medical board's investigation found evidence of professional negligence. Rebecca Caldwell's promising career ended in disgrace, her patient notes revealing a pattern of missed signs that should have triggered medical referrals. The final nail in her professional coffin came from character witnesses who testified to her increasing emotional detachment following her own personal losses, a divorce, and the recent death of her father from complications of dementia. But the file contains one detail that stops Alexander's breath entirely. The deceased patient's name was Jamie Caldwell. Not just any patient, her son. The Medical Review Board's final report states that Dr. Caldwell became aware of potential health concerns in her son during their private therapy sessions, but failed to pursue appropriate medical evaluation due to what the report termed professional blind spots and emotional interference with clinical judgment. She lost her medical license for failing to save her own child. Alexander closes the laptop, his hands shaking as he processes the implications. The woman who broke through Lucas's silence is a mother who couldn't protect her own son from a silent killer. The silver object in her pocket isn't medical credentials, it's a memorial, a reminder of professional failure that cost her everything, including the child she was trained to protect. Alexander returns to the cafe with Jeremy's report burning in his mind like acid. Reese is helping Lucas color a children's menu, her movements careful and measured, as if each interaction might shatter like spun glass. She looks up when Alexander approaches, and for a moment her mask slips completely. In her eyes, he sees the reflection of his own grief, the hollow recognition of parents who failed when it mattered most. She knows he knows. The terror he glimpsed earlier transforms into resignation, as if she's been waiting 18 months for someone to expose her secret. "We need to talk," Alexander says quietly, sliding into the booth across from them. Lucas looks up from his coloring, crayons clutched in small fists, and Alexander's heart breaks a little more. How do you explain to a 5-year-old that the woman who gave him his voice back is running from shadows of her own making? "I know who you are, Dr. Caldwell." The words hang in the air between them like a blade waiting to fall. Reese's shoulders collapse inward, her professional posture crumbling under the weight of exposure. She glances at Lucas, who continues coloring dinosaurs with the intense focus of childhood, oblivious to the adult drama unfolding around him. "I lost my license," she whispers, her voice barely audible over the cafe's afternoon bustle. "I lost everything. But Lucas, he reminds me of Jamie before." Her words trail off into silence heavy with unspeakable loss. Alexander feels his anger warring with unexpected compassion. This woman deceived him, hid a professional failure that should disqualify her from any interaction with his vulnerable son. But she also accomplished what dozens of licensed specialists couldn't. She reached Lucas in a place where hope had almost died. The ethical calculus should be simple, but nothing about parenthood has ever been simple. Reese reaches into her apron pocket with trembling fingers, withdrawing the silver object that's been catching light all afternoon. It's not a medical ID badge as Alexander expected. It's a small memorial pendant engraved with simple words, "Jamie Caldwell, age 4, my brave boy." She places it on the table between them like an offering or a confession. "He loved dinosaurs too," she says, watching Lucas color with fierce concentration. Same selective mutism following his father's abandonment. Same patterns, same withdrawal. I was so focused on fixing him professionally that I missed the signs when he got sick. Pediatric leukemia presents as fatigue and behavioral changes symptoms I attributed to psychological trauma instead of medical crisis. Her tears fall silently onto the Formica table, and Alexander realizes he's witnessing the raw confession of a mother's ultimate failure. By the time we caught the cancer, it had spread. He died 6 weeks after diagnosis. The confession strips away every defense Alexander has built around his protective anger. Here sits a woman whose professional expertise in childhood trauma came at the cost of her own child's life. Her knowledge of selective mutism, a gentle approach to Lucas's barriers, her instinctive understanding of how to reach children trapped in silence, all of it earned through personal devastation that makes his own loss seem manageable by comparison. I became a waitress because I couldn't trust myself around children anymore. Reese continues, her voice gaining strength through the telling. But when I saw Lucas that first day, arranging those sugar packets in the same patterns Jamie used to make, I couldn't walk away. I told myself one conversation wouldn't hurt. Then one became 10, became 20. He started responding, and I thought maybe this was my chance to save someone since I couldn't save my own son. Her eyes meet Alexander's across the table, and he sees not deception, but desperate redemption. "I know you should call the authorities. I know I have no right to be here, but he's getting better, and I can't bear to watch another child disappear into silence." Alexander's phone buzzes with a text from Jeremy. "Medical board hearing scheduled next month." She's petitioning for license reinstatement. The information changes everything. Reese isn't hiding from her past. She's fighting to reclaim her future. The woman sitting across from him isn't running from responsibility but toward it, seeking redemption through the very children her failure once cost. "You're trying to get your license back," Alexander says, and Reese nods, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "The board requires character witnesses, documented rehabilitation, and proof of professional competency. But no one will hire a speech pathologist with my history, and I can't build a case for reinstatement without supervised practice." She wipes her eyes with her apron, leaving mascara streaks that make her look younger and more vulnerable. "I've been working with 3 other children from the community center off the books, documenting their progress. Lucas is my best case study, but I know that's not fair to him or to you. I should have told you the truth from the beginning." Lucas looks up from his coloring, crayons scattered across the table like tiny monuments to ordinary childhood. Reese sad? His small voice carries concern that pierces Alexander's heart. The boy who hasn't spoken in 18 months is worried about the feelings of the woman he barely knows. Reese's composure finally cracks completely, and she buries her face in her hands as sobs shake her shoulders. Alexander watches his son reach across the table to pat Reese's arm with the instinctive compassion of children who understand pain without needing explanations. No cry, Reese. Lucas okay now. The simple words carry more healing power than any medical intervention Alexander has ever paid for. In this moment, he realizes the transaction happening at table 7 isn't one-sided. Reese isn't just helping Lucas find his voice. Lucas is helping her find her forgiveness. The question now is whether Alexander can find his own. 3 weeks pass before Alexander makes his decision. He spends those days watching Lucas through new eyes, cataloging changes that extend far beyond recovered speech. His son sleeps through the night without nightmares. He initiates conversations about dinosaurs and playground equipment and the color of clouds. He asks when they'll see Reese again, and Alexander realizes the woman who lost her license for professional failure has become the most effective therapist Lucas has ever encountered. Neural dynamic stock price climbs to record highs, while Alexander's attention shifts from algorithms to ethics, from corporate strategy to the messier calculus of human redemption. On the Thursday before Reese's medical board hearing, he makes a phone call that will change the trajectory of 3 lives. Jeremy, I need you to research legal precedent for character witness testimony in medical license reinstatement cases, and I want to explore funding options for a non-profit speech therapy center specializing in childhood trauma recovery. The medical board hearing takes place in a sterile conference room that smells of disinfectant and broken dreams. 5 board members sit behind a polished table, their faces professionally neutral as they review Rebecca Caldwell's petition for license reinstatement. Her lawyer, a competent woman in her 40s, presents evidence of rehabilitation, volunteer hours at the community center, continuing education coursework, psychological evaluation confirming fitness for practice. But the board members' questions focus relentlessly on the case that cost Reese her license. Dr. Caldwell, how can we trust your judgment with future patients given your failure to recognize critical symptoms in your own son? The question hangs in the air like a guillotine blade, and Alexander watches Reese's hands shake as she formulates her response. I failed Jamie because I was too close to see clearly, she says, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to spill. But that failure taught me to recognize signs I once overlooked. My personal loss doesn't disqualify my professional knowledge, it perfects it. Alexander stands from his observer seat, drawing surprised glances from the board members who weren't expecting witness testimony from a technology CEO. My name is Alexander Reed, and Dr. Caldwell helped my son recover from selective mutism when no one else could reach him. He places his tablet on the evidence table, displaying videos of Lucas's progress over the past month. She accomplished this breakthrough not despite her personal tragedy, but because of it. She understood my son's silence because she lived with the consequences of her own son's silence being misinterpreted. The board chairwoman, Dr. Patricia Wong, examines the video evidence with clinical interest. Mr. Reed, are you aware of Dr. Caldwell's disciplinary history when you allowed her to work with your child? Alexander nods. I hired private investigators who discovered her background after she began helping Lucas. My decision to continue working with her was informed, not naive. The question isn't whether she made mistakes in the past, the question is whether she's learned from them enough to prevent future tragedies. Lucas chooses that moment to speak up from his seat beside Alexander, his small voice carrying clearly through the formal hearing room. Reese teached me to talk again. She's not scary like the other doctors. The board members exchange glances, and Dr. Wong leans forward with newfound interest. Lucas, can you tell us what made Reese different from your other doctors? Lucas considers this with the seriousness of childhood logic before answering. She didn't try to fix me fast. She played with me first, made me feel safe. His words hang in the air with the weight of simple truth, and Alexander sees several board members writing notes. Children, it seems, make compelling character witnesses when their testimony cuts through professional complexity to reveal human connection. She knew I was sad inside like she's sad inside. Lucas continues, unaware that his words are dismantling professional barriers with childlike precision. But she still helped me anyway. That's what good helpers do. Dr. Wong's expression softens as she addresses Reese directly. Dr. Caldwell, this board requires supervised practice as a condition of license reinstatement. Do you have arrangements for appropriate oversight during your probationary period? Alexander stands again, his decision crystallizing in real time. I'm prepared to fund a non-profit therapy center where Dr. Caldwell can practice under board-certified supervision. Neural Dynamics will provide startup capital and ongoing operational support, contingent on her license reinstatement and agreement to serve underserved populations. The offer surprises everyone in the room, including Reese, whose eyes widen with something resembling hope. Furthermore, I'll personally guarantee her professional liability insurance during the probationary period. This isn't charity, it's investment in proven results. Dr. Wong confers quietly with her colleagues before addressing the room. This board will consider Dr. Caldwell's petition for conditional license reinstatement, with supervised practice requirements and quarterly review meetings. Our decision will be issued within 10 business days. The decision arrives on a Tuesday morning that feels pregnant with possibilities. Alexander opens the certified letter in his Neural Dynamics office, 40 floors above Portland's bustling downtown core. Dr. Rebecca Susan Caldwell is hereby granted conditional reinstatement of her Oregon medical license, subject to 18 months of supervised practice, under the oversight of a board-certified pediatric speech pathologist. He immediately calls Reese, who answers on the first ring from her morning shift at Moonbeam Café. You got it, Alexander says without preamble, and her gasp of surprise carries 18 months of suppressed hope. Conditional reinstatement with supervision requirements, and I have a proposition. The Silent Voices Center opens 3 months later in a converted warehouse space in southeast Portland, its walls painted with dinosaurs and rainbows that Lucas helped design. Dr. Patricia Wong agrees to serve as clinical supervisor, drawn by the innovative approach to trauma recovery that emerges from the collaboration between technological resources and hard-won wisdom. 18 months later, Lucas runs through the therapy center's playground like any normal 6-year-old, his laughter mixing with the voices of 24 other children who found their words through careful attention and patient love. The Silent Voices Center serves 40 families throughout the Portland metro area, its sliding-scale fee structure ensuring that healing isn't limited by economic barriers. Alexander watches from his office window as Reese conducts a group session with 3 children whose selective mutism mirrors Lucas's former silence. Her movements carry the confidence of someone who's transformed personal devastation into professional expertise. The memorial pendant she once wore in her apron pocket now sits in a place of honor on her office desk, surrounded by drawings and thank you cards from children who learned to speak again. Jamie would be proud, Alexander tells her during their weekly progress meetings, and Reese's smile carries gratitude mixed with grief that will probably never fully heal. The wedding takes place in the therapy center's main room on a Saturday afternoon in spring, surrounded by 36 children who consider themselves personally responsible for bringing their favorite adults together. Lucas serves as ring-bearer with the solemnity of someone who understands the importance of families healing from broken pieces. Reese wears her grandmother's dress, simple and elegant, while Alexander chooses a suit that Lucas helped pick from the men's store downtown. Dr. Wong officiates the ceremony with the same careful attention she brings to medical supervision, pronouncing them husband and wife, with professional satisfaction and personal joy. The reception features a cake decorated with dinosaurs and speech therapy tools, a combination that perfectly represents their unconventional love story. As they dance to music selected by their young advisory committee, Alexander reflects on the miracle of finding love in the aftermath of loss, hope in the shadow of professional failure, and family in the most unexpected places. 5 years after that first Tuesday at Moonbeam Café, Alexander stands before Portland City Council to request zoning approval for Silent Voices Center expansion. The original facility serves a waiting list of 300 families, while Dr. Caldwell's research on childhood trauma recovery has been published in 4 peer-reviewed journals. Lucas, now 10 years old, serves as junior consultant for children beginning their recovery journey, his natural empathy and personal experience making him uniquely qualified to recognize signs of progress in others. Every child deserves to be heard, Alexander tells the council members, echoing words he first heard from a waitress who changed his life. Every family deserves hope. Every person deserves the chance to transform their greatest failure into their most meaningful success. The expansion is approved unanimously, funded by a combination of Neural Dynamics profits and state grants for innovative healthcare delivery models. The success stories fill filing cabinets and digital databases, but Lucas keeps his own collection in a shoebox under his bed. Thank you cards from children who learned to speak again, wedding invitations from families who healed together, graduation announcements from teenagers who overcame early trauma to achieve their dreams. On quiet Sunday mornings, he reads these treasures to his baby sister Emma, explaining in 10-year-old wisdom how their family began with broken pieces that fit together into something stronger than the original design. Mama Reese was sad because her first little boy died, Lucas tells Emma during their bedtime stories. Daddy was sad because Mama Madison died. I was sad because talking felt too scary. But then we found each other, and sad plus sad plus sad somehow made happy. Emma doesn't understand the mathematics of grief transformation, but she claps her hands when Lucas makes silly voices for the characters in their family story. Sometimes Alexander catches Reese standing in their kitchen garden, her hands gentle among the tomato plants, while tears slip down her cheeks with the regularity of seasonal rain. Jamie would have been 12 years old now, old enough to help his little siblings with homework and playground negotiations. The grief never fully disappears. It transforms, softens, finds new expressions in the children she saves and the family she's built from the ashes of professional failure. He sent me to you, she tells Alexander during these moments of raw remembrance. Jamie knew Lucas needed someone who understood how silence feels from the inside. He knew you needed someone who wouldn't give up on healing, even when healing seems impossible. Alexander holds her until the tears pass, marveling at his wife's capacity to find purpose in pain, meaning in the messiest parts of human experience. Neural dynamics develops new applications for artificial intelligence in healthcare diagnostics, while Silent Voices Center expands to serve 12 locations across the Pacific Northwest. The integration of technology and human compassion creates breakthrough treatment protocols that reduce childhood trauma recovery time by 60%. Alexander's personal transformation from grieving widower to healing husband mirrors his company's evolution from purely profit-driven to socially conscious, proving that success metrics can include both stock price and lives changed for the better. The memorial wall in Silent Voices Center's main lobby displays photographs of Jamie Caldwell alongside testimonials from 300 families, whose children found their voices through his mother's dedication to redemptive healing. Every success story honors his memory, transforming one family's tragedy into countless families' triumph. Lucas graduates from middle school with honors in creative writing, his essays about overcoming selective mutism, earning statewide recognition from childhood advocacy organizations. His acceptance speech at the Oregon Young Writers Conference brings the audience to their feet with its simple wisdom. Sometimes the people who help us the most are the ones who needed help first themselves. My mom lost her first son, but that loss taught her how to save other kids like me. My dad lost his first wife, but that loss taught him how to love deeper the second time. I lost my voice for a while, but that loss taught me how to help other quiet kids find theirs. Maybe losing isn't the opposite of winning. Maybe it's just the first step toward a different kind of victory. The standing ovation lasts 3 minutes, while Reese and Alexander wipe away tears of pride and amazement at the wisdom their son has gleaned from their family's journey through grief toward grace. The story that began with Tesla keys striking worn linoleum ends with a different kind of music, children's laughter echoing through therapy center hallways, graduation speeches celebrating triumph over trauma, wedding vows spoken by adults who learned to love again after devastating loss. Alexander keeps that first investigative report about Dr. Rebecca Caldwell in his office safe, not as evidence of deception, but as testimony to the power of second chances and the possibility of transforming personal failure into professional calling. The silver memorial pendant that once represented shame now symbolizes hope, its engraved words a daily reminder that love survives death, purpose emerges from pain, and sometimes the greatest healers are those who've been broken themselves. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m., their family returns to Moonbeam Café for grilled cheese cut into triangles and chocolate milk in clear glasses, honoring the sacred space where their story began with silence and bloomed into song. Lucas helped us learn that sometimes the quietest voices carry the most important messages, that healing happens not despite our wounds, but through them, and that the miracle of speaking again is only the beginning of much larger conversations about forgiveness, hope, and the unexpected ways love finds us when we need it most. What voice are you waiting to hear?